You believe a woman's hug is a simple physical event, a spontaneous moment of warmth or greeting, but I tell you, it is a test, a subtle, nonverbal inquiry into the quality of your inner world, one that few men pass, and one that fewer still use to plant the seeds of lasting respect in her mind. By the end of this journey, you will not only possess the surgical clarity to diagnose every form of human closeness, but more profoundly, the inner architecture, to respond with a calm, magnetic authority that is not predicated on need or desire, but on the unshakable self-possession ancient Stoics called prohairesis, or moral choice. We will uncover the one tragic mistake most men make in that decisive half-second, a mistake that instantly broadcasts their hidden insecurity. But first, a necessary caution. What we discuss here is the philosophy of agency and boundaries. It is a training of the mind, a practice for cultivating self-respect and disciplined observation. This is not medical, therapeutic, or personalized relationship advice. For decisions touching upon the intimate and the personal, always pause, reflect deeply on your own circumstances, and consult qualified professionals. The Stoics were clear. Our study is to improve our judgments, not to dictate the actions of others. The common view of such an exchange, a hug, a touch, a moment of physical proximity, is one of external focus. What does she feel? What does this mean for us? This external focus is the source of all anxiety. When a man's attention rushes outward, his inner fortress is instantly compromised, making him a slave to what is not his own. The ancient Stoic maxim of the dichotomy of control is the bedrock here, and it is brutally simple. Some things are up to us, our opinions, impulses, desires, and especially our choices. And some are not. Everything else, the other person's thoughts, the weather, their hugging style, and the eventual outcome. The error is to obsess over the uncontrollable outcome. The wise path is to bring surgical clarity to the only thing truly up to you, your response. The simple hug, often dismissed as a platitude, is in fact a canvas upon which she paints her current disposition and a crucible in which your character is assayed. We can classify these gestures not to label the woman, but to train your power of disciplined observation. Let us simplify it first. At the most casual level, you encounter the perfunctory patke, a brief, almost stiff, shoulder-to-shoulder motion with little torso contact, often accompanied by those fast, little rhythmic pats on the back that signal a clear and almost surgical distance. In plain English, this says, I see you as a kind acquaintance, a peer, perhaps a friend, and I value our relationship, but I am setting a clear, comfortable boundary. The common man, driven by hope and anxiety, reads this as a rejection or a disappointment, and his inner monologue spirals toward neediness. The Stoic, however, sees a neutral event, an external circumstance, and knows the appropriate response is not to pine, but to mirror the respect of the boundary. The length of the moment is dictated, and you do not cling. Your energy remains steady, and you allow her to dictate the close. Your response is to match her ease, confirming without desperation that her current disposition is neither a threat to your peace nor a source of undue excitement. This is the first crucial lesson. Your peace is not for sale, and it certainly does not hang upon the brief duration of a bodily gesture. Now we introduce the first nuance, the move that plants the first seed of distinction in her mind. When the hug is simply a friendly pat, A man's default is to end it exactly as she does. But the disciplined man, the one who has trained his inner life against the gravitational pull of need, finds a subtle way to communicate his inner stillness. As the moment ends and she pulls back, the common man snaps his attention away, betraying his nervousness. The man of prohairesis does the opposite. He maintains a half-second of unhurried eye contact, a simple, quiet gaze that says, "I was fully present, I was comfortable, and I have no need to rush, for my world is already complete." This brief, non-anxious presence, this small gift of focused, easy attention, is the first marker of inner authority. It is an act of voluntary discomfort, a subtle refusal to conform to the quick, nervous energy of the transactional world. This tiny, unhurried space is where her mind registers your difference. This leads us to the second type, the firm embrace. This lasts longer, involves more genuine torso contact, and carries a palpable weight of comfort and familiarity. It is more than a greeting. It is a signal of established rapport and trust. Here is where the distinction between platonic respect and romantic interest often blurs, which is precisely why it is a greater test of your character. The common mistake, the tragic mistake, I promise to reveal, is to rush the withdrawal. The man of need worries, "Am I holding too long? Will she think I want more?" And he is the one who snaps back first, thereby extinguishing the potential moment and signaling an underlying fear of intimacy and vulnerability. He betrays his lack of ease and confidence. The Stoic principle demands that you resist the impulse to rush. If she dictates the duration, you meet it, and then, crucially, you allow the moment to last for one disciplined breath longer than she expected, but without any increase in pressure or grasping desperation. This is not about trying to get more. It is about demonstrating that you are secure enough to occupy space. This subtle extension, this disciplined refusal to be the first to break the ease, communicates a profound sense of self-acceptance. The action is minor, a simple, non-anxious extension. The internal state is everything. You are simply refusing to let her timing control your inner peace. Your value is not in the transaction. It is in the unhurried stillness you bring to the transaction. This deliberate choice to linger, calmly, gently, and without escalation, is not manipulation. It is the philosophical act of declaring inner sovereignty. The ancient Stoics often spoke of the importance of voluntary hardship, or not just cold plunges or fasting, but the disciplined exposure to moments of vulnerability that test your composure. This brief, extended hug is a miniature version of that training, a moment to practice non-reaction. If she smiles when she finally pulls back, if her eye contact remains soft, you know you have not crossed a boundary, but merely affirmed the comfort she initiated. Let me tell you about a preventable downfall I observed, one that illuminates this crucial difference. There was a man, let us call him Marcus, who was profoundly talented and kind, but whose inner architecture was built upon need. Marcus was courting a colleague, and their relationship developed to the point of easy familiarity, marked by the frequent, firm embrace. One evening, after a successful collaboration, she gave him one of these hugs, and Marcus, consumed by the hope that this meant more, made the tragic mistake. Instead of maintaining his stillness and allowing the moment to simply be, he tightened his grip, pulling her slightly closer, an involuntary action driven entirely by his desperate desire for an outcome. The action itself was subtle, but the energy was a torrent of need, and it spoke volumes. The woman immediately, almost imperceptibly, stiffened. She pulled away a half-second later than she should have. Her smile was a little too quick, and the subject immediately changed. The open loop of attraction was not only closed, it was sealed shut. Marcus had committed the philosophical sin of confusing a comfortable moment for a committed future. He was not present in the moment. He was grasping for a fantasy. His downfall was not in his action, but in his judgment. He had judged the affirm embrace to be an invitation to force an outcome, betraying his inner poverty and his lack of respect for the natural unfolding of things. The woman's mind did not register desire. It registered pressure and anxiety. This contrasts starkly with the delayed awakening that taught another man, whom we will call Silas, a much harder lesson about the lingering embrace. This third type is where she genuinely rests against you, her body relaxes, and the moment seems to hold its own gravity, resisting the impulse to end. Silas was a man of action, a brilliant strategist who could run companies, but not his own heart. For weeks, he and a woman he admired shared these lingering moments. His problem was not need, but over-analysis. He had read too many scripts about what should happen next. Every time she lingered, he would spend the entire duration, 2 or 3 critical seconds, in a mental frenzy, trying to determine the next right move. Should he touch her lower back? Should he whisper a compliment? Should he gently pull away? He was everywhere, but in the moment, he was paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake. He would eventually pull away abruptly, his face etched with a kind of distant intellectual confusion. The woman began to see him as emotionally inaccessible, closed off. His tragedy was one of hyper-rationality, blinding him to present reality. The lesson came when he finally spoke with an older mentor who simply said, "Silas, pray. You are trying to manage a moment that requires you to receive it." The Stoic insight here is that the most powerful response to the lingering embrace is not an action, but a non-action, a disciplined, continuous reception. You become the unmoving center in the storm, the architectural foundation that allows her energy to settle. If she presses closer, you allow it. If she lingers, you are the rock upon which she rests. This is the subtle difference between grasping and reciprocity. The appropriate response is to meet her energy with an equal, calm weight and allow her to determine the exit. The only action necessary, perhaps, is a gentle, mindful adjustment of your arm to provide her greater comfort, a subtle touch that communicates, "I am here, and I am not leaving until you do." It is a quiet declaration of safe, unhurried presence. Silas's delayed awakening was the realization that doing less was often the most powerful and demanding form of inner mastery. He had to silence the cacophony of his own expectations. The final and most telling sign is the intimate embrace. This is not just lingering, it is a profound lean in. Her head rests on your shoulder or neck, her breathing becomes synchronized with yours, and the contact is total. This is the clear signal of safety, profound connection, and attraction. Here, The philosophical test is no longer about boundaries, but about our courage and intention. The common man, driven by a sudden surge of excitement and the fear of letting the moment slip, often makes his move too early, too suddenly, attempting to transition the intimacy into something else, a kiss, a proposition, a desperate verbal declaration, before the moment has fully saturated the present. This is a lapse in discipline and a disrespect for the delicate architecture of the moment. The Stoic response is one of confident absorption. You embrace her naturally, allowing your own warmth and weight to provide a stable, continuous presence. You must be a fortress in which she feels safe. If she's resting her head, you allow your breathing to remain slow and deep. If her embrace tightens, you allow your own to follow, a mirror of calm, unanxious strength. The action that plants you permanently in her mind is the one that follows her eventual withdrawal. The intentional continuation of eye contact. As she pulls away, you hold her gaze, not with heat or desperation, but with a steady, open inquiry. A look that says, I saw the reality of that moment, and I was entirely comfortable with it. This is the moment to close the loop on the tragic mistake. That failure to maintain unhurried eye contact is the instant broadcast of insecurity. The disciplined gaze, in contrast, demonstrates that your internal state is so composed that the sudden shift in external circumstance, the end of the hug, causes you no psychological stress. This disciplined intensity communicates unshakable confidence because it is a confidence earned by inner work, not by external validation. This brings us to a credible transformation that worked, illustrating the seamless integration of these principles. There was a man, let us call him Leo, who sought to implement these insights not for immediate gain, but for the fundamental re-architecture of his character. He began to practice negative visualization, imagining the moment would always end abruptly, that she would never linger, thereby freeing his emotional energy from the external outcome. He started to treat every hug, even the most fleeting, as a meditation on the present moment. His goal was simply to be the most comfortably present person in the room. When he received the intimate embrace from a woman he respected, he focused on his own breathing, maintaining the stillness he had practiced. As she pulled away, he did not rush to speak or make a move. He simply held the gaze, and with the slight, disciplined movement of a hand, he gently touched her shoulder or the outside of her arm for a final, fleeting second as a quiet sign-off to the moment. This touch was not a grab. It was an intentional, finite signature of attention, confirming the intimacy without demanding its continuation, because his action was governed by his intention to confirm comfort rather than need to get a response. It registered as authentic, powerful, and deeply respectful. He was not pursuing her. He was simply being himself, a man of disciplined, unhurried presence. This is the essence of what stays in a person's mind forever, not what you did to them, but who you were. In the moment you shared, the key lessons are portable. First, you are the fortress. Guard your inner peace against the external gravity of her action. Second, resist the rush. The most powerful response to any moment of intimacy is to allow it to last one unanxious breath longer than expected, provided it is her energy that initiated the contact. Third, let your gaze be your signature. The quiet, Unhurried eye contact upon withdrawal is the ultimate non-verbal declaration of your inner authority and comfort. Your power does not lie in securing a certain outcome, but in the perfect quality of your choice in the moment. Remember that phrase and repeat it to yourself whenever you feel anxiety rising. My peace is not for sale. We have analyzed the external tests, but the greatest discipline lies ahead. The mastery of our impulses, the quiet strength that makes a man memorable, extends far beyond physical contact. The truly great challenge is not to respond well to a hug, but to master the silence that follows. Our next path in this disciplined life must therefore be the Stoic practice of negative visualization, not to invite pessimism, but to fortify the soul against the unexpected storms of life by proactively meditating on the loss of that which we value. It is the discipline of imagining the ship in the storm, not to fear the tempest, but to train the hand to keep the rudder true.